David Sinton was born in 1808 in County Armagh, Ireland, to John and Jane MacDonald Sinton. His father, a linen manufacturer, believed better opportunities existed in America for his young family. In 1811, the family emigrated to America, settling briefly in Pittsburgh before moving to West Union, Ohio, Adams County, where David's father operated a general store. David attended school irregularly, but he desired something more than what he could learn from books. This passion for independence and adventure culminated when, at age 13, he left home and traveled to Sinking Springs, Ohio, to work as a clerk at John McCaig's Tavern. His wages totaled $4 a month, plus board. Feeling greater opportunities existed in Cincinnati, Sinton arrived in the city in 1824. Finding work, however, proved difficult. He finally secured a position with a commission merchant, only to have his position terminated 4 months later. Sinton returned home, feeling a failure, obviously disappointed at this attempt at being independent. His former boss, John McCaig, asked him to return and operate his hostelry, where Sinton would entertain guests as politically diverse as Henry Clay and Andrew Jackson. In 1826, at the age of 18, Sinton returned to Cincinnati and used what savings he had to form a commission business in partnership with two West Union men, John Sparks and Daniel Boyle. Within 6 months, the venture failed, forcing Sinton to leave Cincinnati once again. Sinton found work as a clerk in a Washington courthouse dry goods store. However, 2 years later, Sinton was hired as a foreman with the James Rogers and Company of Union Furnace, an iron furnace company in Hanging Rock, Ohio. His fortune began to change from this date forward. He earned $400 a year plus board and remained with the company for 7 years. After only 2 years, Sinton was appointed general manager of the business. In 1833, Sinton and a friend, Thomas W. Means, pooled their money and leased 3/4 of the Union Furnace property and manufactured pig iron. To gain the respect of his employees, Sinton worked side by side with his men and performed the same manual labor tasks. Even a disastrous fire which hit the plant, destroying a large portion of the facility, couldn't stop Sinton. He quickly regrouped and constructed a running blast furnace that made 6 tons of iron per day. While the pig iron cost only $10 to process, Sinton charged his customers $35 per ton, saving the difference for future expansion and capital equipment expenditures. After the lease on the property expired, Sinton and Means purchased it and built Ohio Furnace. Sinton moved back to Cincinnati in 1847 and opened an office to facilitate the company's expansion into the surrounding regions. His operations proved so successful that by the 1850s, he expanded into other business enterprises, notably real estate. After only a brief period, Sinton owned key properties and buildings in Cincinnati at 4th and Central, 4th between Race and Elm, Front Street between Elm and Plum, northwest corner of 5th and Vine, named the Sinton Building, northeast corner of 6th and Walnut, 4th and Main, and the Grand Opera House, located on Vine Street. In addition to these properties, he owned acres and acres of land in Texas, Chicago, Louisville, Portsmouth, Ohio, and Kenton and Campbell counties in Kentucky. By 1860, Sinton saw war on the horizon. While Sinton and Means continued producing iron at the facility, Sinton stopped selling it. He compensated his workers in flour, salt pork, and molasses, all purchased on credit. When war was declared, the price of iron skyrocketed. Sinton released his self-imposed restriction and sold his stockpiled pig iron at premium prices. He became extremely wealthy. Sinton's philanthropic ventures became well known to all Cincinnatians. In the years following the Civil War, Sinton gave $100,000 to the University of Cincinnati, $100,000 to Union Bethel, $30,000 to Sinton Hall, $10,000 to the Art Museum, $70,000 to the Art Academy, and liberally supported the YMCA for years. In 1871, Sinton purchased a mansion on Pike Street, known as the Belmont. After Sinton's youngest daughter married Charles P. Taft, they moved into the mansion to keep David Sinton company after the death of his wife. Then, after Sinton's death in 1900, it became the home of the Tafts, who in the 1930s donated it to the city. Sinton's money also enabled him and his son-in-law to purchase the Cincinnati Times in 1879. And with the addition of the Star the following year, the Cincinnati Times-Star became the first local paper to serve its readers with New York and national news by means of a private telegraph wire. In the end, David Sinton's life proved a valuable lesson for many who followed him. For Sinton's humble beginnings, coupled with a lack of money and education, did not deter him from becoming a truly self-made man and one of Cincinnati's wealthiest citizens.